We are in the grips of an unusual phenomenon. All over the world, people have been seeing giant triangles. The most famous, Belgium, 1989. Phoenix, Arizona, 1997. Tinley Park, Illinois, 2004, all of them at night. But now new breaks in the investigation of these unexplained triangular craft. We've uncovered rare, never before seen daytime footage taken in an area of California known as Triangle Alley.
They're massive. They're flying so slowly over us that if it were a conventional aircraft, they'd fall out of the sky.
So we are going to talk to Mark and Jed, two sky watchers here in Sonora, California, who've had some incredible daytime and nighttime sightings of flying triangles.
It was June 15, 2004, when I was here on that balcony right there with you. We were looking at the sky up there, and you videotaped a real triangle during daylight hours.
Oh my God. I've got 3 lights in a triangular formation.
Are you sure?
Yes, this is, oh my God.
I was right there next to him, and I was fumbling with my camera, but by the time I got everything up and running, this thing was gone.
You missed it.
I missed it, unfortunately, but Mark was there, and I'm telling you guys, this really happened.
And these lights, they were equidistant. It seemed like it was from one solid figure.
Yes, and they didn't vary as they moved across the sky. They stayed fixed. What the hell is that?
Are you sure?
It's behind those branches. You didn't see it? Oh my God.
These UFOs originated back behind this ridge. Are you aware of any Air Force bases, maybe just an airport?
Over on the other side of this ridge is Columbia Airport. It's a very small airport. They don't even have radar.
What about military?
The only military base is Castle over in Merced, and it's closed.
Well, people might be tempted to ask, why is it that you both see so many UFOs?
I've watched for literally thousands of hours for a few minutes of footage.
This was more than just a hobby.
Oh, for a while there, it became an obsession almost. Just wanting to know what they are.
Sounds like it paid off.
Sort of, yeah, I want to know. I still don't know what they are. I still want to find out.
But we have
what they are.
daytime footage. That's
Yes.
just so incredibly rare.
I hope it can be analyzed and independently, and so we can see what these are.
The Mark Olson video is really interesting, not just for what it is, but because it's so reminiscent of the video shot in Belgium in 1989. Both the Olson video and the Belgium video were 3 lights in a triangular formation. But the Belgium video was even more compelling than the Olson video because the Belgium video actually showed a physical object holding the 3 lights in place, a triangle. I believe that if Terrence Masson has a chance to analyze this Mark Olson video, what he's going to see is an object holding the 3 lights together. That's our next stop, Terrence Masson's lab.
Terrence Masson is an image analyst, and he'll be using motion tracking software to isolate and stabilize the 3 lights in Mark Olson's daytime footage. We're going to analyze Mark's video frame by frame to get some answers.
So what I've done here first is cropped out the majority of the frame so we can concentrate on the object itself and stabilized it. You can tell definitively here, these things are rock solid in formation. This is a good solid 4.5 seconds, and even the tightest precision acrobatic flying, you're going to see some kind of relative motion over that kind of time frame.
Can we eliminate the obvious things? Is this some type of helicopter? Is there any evidence of that?
Well, without having 100% certainty, I can come up with a long list of things that make this not anything like conventional aircraft. Going away from the running footage now, we've got single still frames, isolated, and I've run some image processing routines on this, and look at what's coming. We see some clear indication of a structure behind and between those 3 lights.
Whoa.
And black triangle. I mean, there's clearly something there.
Is there any other explanation that the darkness around these lights is something other than a solid object?
Many times we've seen in these consumer-grade camcorders, the exposure range for the pixels that capture this information are very, very limited, and sometimes we do get blooming effects. So next to very bright lights, it'll tend to compensate and go very dark.
Right.
That's not what we're seeing here. It's too consistent over too long of footage.
What's your best guess? What are we looking at?
My best guess would be we're looking at a single triangular-shaped dark craft with 3 very large either propulsion or illuminating lights that's not consistent with any man-made craft.
We're investigating multiple UFO sightings that took place on March 17th and March 18th in 2009. And each sighting was followed by what seems to be the military's first response to a UFO presence. Are they intercepting the objects? Engaging the objects? We don't know, but we're about to view Trevor Lauder's video. Maybe that's going to help us figure this out.
What you can see here is the western horizon. Traveling south, what really stood out to me were these amber orbs that were attached to it. They seem to be in sort of an oval shape, and there seem to be several of them attached to the bulk of the craft. Coming into focus here in just a moment, we're going to see a solitary light on the end of the object, and you're able to kind of make out a wing. Now, when this flew overhead, I was able to make out a second wing. So what we're looking at here is the fuselage, wing, and then what you don't see is that other wingtip.
Trevor's testimony is very interesting, and if his estimation of the size of this object is correct, he may be onto something. But the video is very shaky, so it's hard to get a reference point to determine just how large this object really is.
So what is it about this craft that strikes you as being unconventional, possibly extraterrestrial?
It's sheer size, the sheer size of it. I could tell that it was at least 300 or 400 feet long, and I can't think of a single craft that is that large that'll travel through the sky at 700 or 800 miles an hour.
A 747 jet has a wingspan of 195 feet, and a B-2 stealth bomber has a wingspan of 175 feet. If Trevor's estimations of this object are correct, then we are talking about a gigantic aircraft.
Here we can see the fighter jets. There's 4 to 6 jets there scrambling behind the craft.
I see it.
And about what distance would you say they were from the craft?
I would have to say they were anywhere between 1 mile to 2 miles behind it, trying to catch up to it.
As I look at this, one of the things that I'm thinking is, you want to say this is a military weapon and they're escorting it, but the fact that they've got their afterburners on really bothers me.
Right.
Because they wouldn't be escorting with afterburners.
Bill is saying that because these jets are using their afterburners, this means that they are chasing the object. But this could very well mean that they are using the afterburners to simply catch up.
Have you ever seen a B-2 bomber, and could this simply have been that?
I have seen several B-2 bombers in the area. Again, we are between a couple of different military establishments here. I frequently see bombers, fighters, commercial aircraft flying through the area, and this doesn't compare. It's not even close.
How so? In terms of size?
Oh,
or?
absolutely. Size, the amber light arrangement, the orbs that are attached to this thing each represent nearly the size of a standard aircraft.
You've seen this thing multiple times. You have video, you've kept notes, you've taken records. What do you think this craft was?
Honestly, Kevin, I have no idea what this object could be.
Although we haven't proven a definite link between the presence of UFOs and a military's first response, our most compelling proof yet may still be Trevor Lauder's video. The military doesn't know what it is. We could be in a Cold War with the UFOs. We're in Huntsville, Alabama to find out more about Operation Paperclip and its legacy for the American space program and Nazi UFOs.
Hi, Bill. Nice to meet you.
Hi, thank you for meeting with us today.
Operation Paperclip originally started in September of 1946 to bring former Nazi rocket scientists and aeronautical engineers into the United States, and they were actually given political immunity in exchange for technical expertise.
Michael Schratt is an aviation historian who specializes in reporting how the military-industrial complex covers up black operations. Now, we're investigating the possibility that some flying saucer technology came over from Germany into the United States. What evidence is there for that?
There is a paper trail to reference for this, and this is an actual Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Air Material Command document, and it basically shows you how this technology was brought from the Third Reich and trickled into the aerospace industry. It starts up here on the upper left-hand corner, German Air Force, then it goes into the Luftwaffe, German Research and Technical Institutions, German Aircraft Industry. That flows then to the Air Documents Division, or T2, at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And then that gets filtered on to the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, American industry, and universities.
T2 was the Air Technical Intelligence Division of the United States military. Based in Wright Field, Ohio, it analyzed all the documents pertaining to Operation Paperclip. They also investigated UFO reports.
We have some really good evidence that, in fact, some of the British and Canadian designs were, in point of fact, procured from the German originals. They were working on what was called a VTOL supersonic gyroplane using a radial thrust engine, and that's Project Y.
Project Y was an attempt to create a vertical takeoff and landing space car. It was better known as the Avro car, films of which show how hard it was to corral a flying saucer.
We were investigating the Bell before. Did any of that transfer over here?
The Bell, which was approximately 15 feet high, 12 feet in diameter, it had two counter-rotating drums on the upper section of the Bell. There was a central shaft that went down the center of the craft that terminated in what's called the thermos bottle. And from the Germans' own documents, we know that a chemical called cerium-525 was actually pumped into this vehicle, and that represented the plasma vortex that was created by this craft.
Is this some kind of writing or inscription around the base?
Back in December 9th, 1965, we had an almost identical looking craft crash in the woods of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, and it too had the same or similar hieroglyphic writing.
Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, 1965. A strange-looking craft allegedly crashes, and it looks a lot like the Glocke. Thousands of people see it, and they even have a monument there now. Now, supposedly, it was carted off by the military. So the line of reasoning is Nazis create the Glocke. Their technology comes to the US along with the German scientists, and they create more of these craft.
Since these craft are identical, is there a human link between the Glocke in the 1940s and Kecksburg 1960s?
In fact, the gentleman who was the senior project design engineer for the Bell program was a man by the name of Kurt Davis. Davis was launch director at NASA between 1962 and 1974.
This is the bombshell we've been waiting for. Kurt Davis, an electrical engineer who actually was part of Project Riese and the Glocke, comes to America to work for NASA. He winds up the launch director of NASA in the 1960s, just when the event at Kecksburg takes place in December 1965. This is the proof that I need that some of the UFOs we see are man-made. Some of what we're seeing up there isn't them, it's us. We're in the Bahamas now, investigating a UFO connection around a real American military installation called AUTEC. AUTEC stands for the Atlantic Undersea Test and Evaluation Center. It was opened in 1967. It's on Andros Island, a remote location in the Bahamas. It sits on what's called the tongue of the ocean. This is a deep ocean basin that's roughly 110 nautical miles long, 20 nautical miles wide, and reaches depths of 6,000 feet. It's a perfect spot for testing new top-secret weapons, submarines, and other exotic underwater craft. How are you, Max? Maximilien de Lafayette is a French ufologist who's written numerous encyclopedias about UFOs, extraterrestrials, and time travel. You said you know the secret from your sources of what AUTEC is and what is going on at AUTEC.
Government is saying that they conduct exotic, aquatic, sophisticated weapon. It's much more than that. It's a nest for contact with alien. Between the 17th and the 22nd of September 1958, during the administration of
President Eisenhower.
They had a meeting.
When you say they had a meeting, who is they?
They were extraterrestrial. They are from outer space, from different dimensions.
According to Maximilian, back in 1958, U.S. government officials had a secret meeting with extraterrestrials, and the very next year, the order to build AUTEC was given. The timing of both events strikes me as more than coincidental.
They told them, we, the alien, we are going to give you some remarkable secrets in exchange. Don't interfere with us when we appear in your skies. If we have a free access to your world, you will have access to very advanced technology.
Maximilian is telling us some pretty unbelievable things, but I'm willing to bet that there's not a single scientist in the world that will go on record and back him up.
I need to know what your sources are for this information.
So I give you my sources. Probably this will be the last time you will see me, or anybody else will see me. AUTEC, it's a laboratory of extremely exotic, avant-garde, multi-dimensional, multi-parallel universe technology.
The U.S. military working on, and perhaps working with, alien technology. Where have we heard this before? Area 51. Is AUTEC something like a portal where there are doorways into other dimensions?
Yes, it's an entrance and exit to multiple universes.
A gateway.
A gateway. Well, there is a theory about this, about AUTEC, the energy and the alien and the program. They built their AUTEC on the top of Atlantis. As you know, the shape of Earth shifted many, many times. Atlantis is dispersed in so many places in the world.
Wait. So the theory then is that somehow Atlantis was part of a unicontinent, which then separated when the tectonic plate shifted.
Correct.
This part of what Maximilian says is based in science. There was a single continent millions of years ago, Pangaea. Everything else, you have to keep an open mind and just evaluate the proof.
Any small piece of Atlantis, whatever it is, can produce certain electromagnetic, they call it hydroplasma, that can suck up many things and produce energy. Part of Atlantis is there.
Who lived in Atlantis?
They were extraterrestrial.
I mean, isn't it a bit much? Are we reaching? Are we trying to roll every possible theory into one giant UFO burrito?
The only thing it has to do with AUTEC is location. It's happening all in the same area. Is there some ulterior thing going on here that has to do with extraterrestrials and AUTEC and the Navy? I can't say that. Right now I'm just seeing coincidences.
And then, to top all these coincidences or this location business off, there's the likelihood of some kind of interdimensional portal here.
Yes, there are some very unusual things going on around AUTEC, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's any kind of extraterrestrial involvement.
There's no proof that the government is working with aliens at AUTEC. All we have is testimony by some very credible witnesses, but there are no videos, no photos, and no tangible evidence.
No matter how you slice it, any which way you go, the Navy chose to put that test center in that place, remote, guarded. Nobody can get there. Who else do we know that did that? The Air Force, putting their own test center at Area 51 in Nevada. Air Force Area 51, AUTEC is the Navy's Area 51.